Welcome to Summa Our Vegas. I'm your host, Renee Summerour. Today, I decided I want to be comfortable because I want to start from the beginning and really just kind of talk you guys through my journey. If you are watching, you could see that Kofi has joined me for this podcast. And, my boys are just not feeling good today. Kofi's not feeling good today. Chris is not feeling good today. So everybody's just laying around. And I figured, you know what? I'm going to lay around too and just tell you guys about my journey. I don't think I ever talk enough about my journey through journalism and how it got started. And so it's time that I tell y'all, the real. And a lot of you, have always asked me to, like, how did you get into journalism, the field in itself. And so I figured this would be the best time to relax and be comfortable and be myself and tell you my journey. So it started in college. Well, I originally went to school for business marketing, right? Didn't know what I was going to do, how I was going to do it. I just thought business marketing was the move. And, back then, marketing was so different than what it is now. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. Went to Long Beach State, by the way. Go 49ers. Ain't nothing finer than a 49er, if you haven't heard that phrase before. But I went to school. I graduated, had a great time. But I graduated in 2009. And we all know back then, the economy wasn't that good, okay? Sister couldn't find a job to save her life. I was doing sales. I was doing all kinds of stuff that had nothing to do with what I got my degree for. And so I was one of hundreds of thousands of millennials. I had to move back home with mama. And I went back to waitressing. I was working at Macaroni Grill all through college. Shout out to Macaroni Grill. I still love the food, okay? And I went and worked at, guess what? You guys probably haven't even heard of this in a long time for you West Coasters out there. Your girl went back to work at Sizzler. Y'all remember Sizzler? The cheese bread, the little bar, all that stuff? Yes. I was one of the few who got to work in the $1 million store, right? There were these brand new stores popping up all over San Diego. And I had to go back to the grind. And I hated it. I thought I was supposed to go to school, get my degree. Everything was going to be great. I was going to land this dream job. And it didn't happen. So I went back to waitressing. Now, in the course of me finding myself and figuring out what I wanted to do, I was going to the gym and I met this guy. And we started dating, and he was telling me about his career that he aspired to start working in, which was radio. Now, I was always interested. I never really chased that dream because I thought, everybody probably wants to do that. And, I don't want to be like everybody else, but he was really encouraging me to try. I guess, other people see a vision of you that you don't see. And he was just telling me that I had a great voice, and he did all this stuff when he was in high school, and he showed me this little crappy video from high school when he used to do the news and all that stuff. And I was like, this is whack. Like, this is so whack. Why are you even showing me this? You need to burn the tapes. Okay. But, he kind of put a spark in my head to think, okay, maybe this is something that I can get into, maybe I will like this, maybe I could be a star of some kind. Right. And so, me and old boy, of course it didn't work out, but it really gave me the inspiration to see, let me see what this is all about. And so I enrolled myself at Palomar College. Shout out to Palomar. Shout out to my teachers, my mentors. Y'all really just created such an amazing foundation for me to learn this industry. And so at first, I started off with, film classes, documentaries, radio. I really started getting a feel for radio, and I loved it. Right. So I ended up working for 3 prominent new radio stations out in San Diego: Magic 92.5, 91X, and Jammin' Z90. Shout out to all of you guys. I miss you. And it was such a great experience, but it was a grind. We're setting up concerts, we're putting up signage. It's hot. Obviously the pay wasn't that good. But the perks of working in radio was so much fun. I met some amazing people who I'm still friends with to this day. And it really kind of set me up for my love of media and being on the airwaves and, playing music. I remember in college I had Renee's Relationship Mondays. It was like a radio show that I had every Thursday in the mornings at school. And shout out to me because I was the only local radio station playing old school hip hop and R&B. I mean, you couldn't really get that in Oceanside unless she was listening to your girl, So, it helped me kind of build an audience and, people were watching and listening. And I was like, man, I really like this, And so I did that for a couple years. I loved radio and I still do, which is probably why I decided to start doing this podcast to kind of get back to my roots. But my teachers were like, look, sis, you got a face for TV, not radio. We need to see you on the news. We need to get you trained up to be more front facing. And so a few semesters later, I started taking broadcasting. And that's when I really fell in love with journalism, right? And it was the creativity behind journalism that I absolutely loved. Being able to talk to people and tell their stories and edit it and create a story that people would be interested in. I was like, okay. I'm feeling this. Like I can really get into this. And so with the help of my mentors and my teachers, they really pushed me into this field. I started anchoring and producing and directing. I was shooting and writing, becoming a full-blown multimedia journalist, right? Shooting, writing, editing my own stories and creating the stories the way I wanted to create them. It was definitely a dope time to be in college at that time because I really felt like I found my groove, right? Being creative and honestly, using all those years, come on now. All those years in school, for those who know me, I always got satisfactories on my report cards because I talk too damn much, right? I talk too damn much. I still talk too damn much sometimes. But I guess the gift of gab helped me get into the field that I'm in now. And so it begun. My journey in journalism begun. Within the first 6 months, I had gotten a job at this place called One America News. It was owned by a very wealthy family who, to say the least, did not come from a news background. And I'm going to keep this short because I really don't like to talk about them too much. There's a lot of controversy behind them, and there's been a lot of stories written about them, especially during the election and the Trump era and all those things. So we'll leave that in the past. But what I will say, for those of you who know, we knew the struggle. We knew the struggle. Okay. We knew what it was, but it taught us how to build something from the ground up. Right. And I did every job in that place. I was a production assistant. I moved up to anchor. And they did me dirty because as soon as they signed to a major broadcast network, they took me off the desk. They said I wasn't good enough and they put me back in the PA position, which was so crushing. Like, what? And I tell this story a lot because it really kind of broke me into the industry. And obviously, as a Black woman working in the industry, there were things that I started to realize were not going to be liked. Y'all know what wasn't going to be liked on a conservative platform. And so, if it wasn't hair or how I was dressed, and honestly, this was my first time anchoring. Like, no, I wasn't going to be the best. I learned a lot, but it was so heartbreaking to know that I didn't fit the mold for what they were looking for in the long run. However, I learned so many amazing skills and met so many amazing people, again, that I'm still friends with to this day, that it helped catapult me into what I was really going to experience at a real station. This station was run in its own way by people who had deep pockets. It didn't really give me the hands-on MMJ experience that I needed. And I was lucky enough to have a friend who also worked there who moved on to a different station. And she helped me get to good old fashioned Yuma, Arizona. That's right, everybody. Population probably 80,000 in the summer and 100,000 in the winter at that time. Small desert town. Yes. 310 Yuma, the movie, all those things. Yes. If Yuma was a bigger place, I probably would have stayed longer because the love in that community is extraordinary. If we weren't a part of every parade, if we weren't going to Mexico to cover stories, this was around the time that Trump became president. And so there was a lot of stories about the border and immigration and smuggling stories and good stories too. Like there were times where my news director would take us to Mexico. Now, listen, okay, we had a time. We had a time. I was living in a 3-bedroom house with 2 of my best friends. It was like post grad, right? We had this dope house. We were broke as hell. We were not making any money. I always tell a lot of journalists this. My first job, your first job in this industry, you will not be making money. I don't care what your grandma says, what your mama says. Oh, my baby's going to be so good on TV. I don't care. Your girl right here was making $24,000. And I know what's even worse in some other markets. You could be making $14,000 a year. People have part-time jobs just so that they can do this. The struggle was real, y'all. Like stupid real. But it's like we struggled together. Me, Max, and Asal. I love y'all. We struggled together. And it was so fun. I felt like my boss, gave us the freedom to really express ourselves through our stories. I remember I did a stand-up on a hoverboard. Like your girl was acting a fool in Yuma. And the community loved us. Y'all, they loved us. They adored us. Okay, we were in every parade. We were speaking events, you name it, fundraisers. We were there. And Yuma always carries a special place in my heart, but it wasn't easy. It was hot, again, with the MMJ life, but this was actually my first market where I got to anchor prime time 5 and 6. And so even though I did some MMJing, I was more of a producer anchor and I just absolutely loved it. That is when I started getting into my going live bag. You remember Periscope? Y'all remember Periscope, right? Like we would go live during our newscast. And to this day, there are some of you right now watching this who have been following me since 2015, 16. I mean, and it warms my heart to know that you've been rocking with me this whole time. And so Yuma really just brought that community energy that I was looking for in this job. And it gave me the spark to want to keep going. Even though I wasn't making no money, even though it was like life was a struggle, we were struggling together. Okay. We found ways to have fun. I think there was like one bar there called the Crest. Y'all remember the Crest? Oh my God. We thought we were superstars there. It was amazing. Yuma was dope. After doing 2 years there, I got a job in Waco, Texas. That's right. David Koresh. Okay, Waco, Wacko, whatever y'all want to call it. Your girl was in Central Texas. And Central Texas was great, but I struggled. I struggled with depression, being so far away from home, being far away from my friends. Yuma, I was 2.5 hours away from home. But here, it was different. The humidity was hitting your girl like a ton of bricks. Okay. I was far away from home. My coworkers, who I love, all the people that I know now that are my coworkers or that I met outside of work, I'm still friends with. And they really helped me get through because it was tough. And I was the youngest. I can't say I was the youngest. Maybe I felt the youngest, but I was the oldest in the newsroom. So there were a lot of people coming in there straight from college. I was only getting paid $35,000 at this point. And shout out to my agent at this time because she really championed for me to get some moving expenses. And journalism, this journey is not easy, y'all. You really have to have a passion for it because nobody in their right mind is moving across the states to only make $35,000 an hour. And you're doing this every 2 to 3 years, by the way. Hopefully your income is increasing, but it's a lot. And so you're acclimating to a new living environment. You're acclimating to new friends, people you don't know. It's the South. One of my neighbors had a Confederate flag in his car. I was like, where the hell am I? Like, this is not California. Okay. This is not the West Coast. It was a little bit of a culture shock. But that's where I really honed in my multimedia journalist skills. And, you know, when I talk about humidity, when we talk about, you know, the types of stories I covered, the community support wasn't necessarily there like it was in Yuma, but me building my skills as a journalist was. And I have to say, I did a freaking good job there. Okay. Your girl never missed a slot. I was training the new people who were there also, right? I had more freedom because I was showing that I was a leader in the newsroom. They didn't care about my hair or how I dressed. None of that was ever an issue. You know, and as Black women, this was a time when women were really going through it in the news industry, especially Black women. We couldn't wear our hair a certain way. We couldn't have certain types of dresses on. We were too curvy. You know, it wasn't professional. And I will say that even though that was a lot of what I was getting, my bosses at the time, they just let me do me. Okay. They let me do me. And I really appreciated that. You know, I can't say that a lot of other Black women in this field have that, but I hope you do. If you are, I hope that you are working with someone who is progressive and who is empathetic and understands our culture and understands that people need to get with the times. Okay. This is us. This is how we are. This is how we come off naturally. You know, whatever you deem as unprofessional is done. And so I can honestly say that I had a real great support system in that realm as far as work. But your girl was tired, okay? And I was depressed and I missed it's hard to leave the West Coast, okay? I'm sorry. I know you guys know I'm from New Jersey originally, but I've been out on the West Coast too long and it's hard to leave. And so, you know, I took those memories and, you know, took those people and kept them close to my heart, but your girl had to go. In the midst of all of this, I was getting my master's degree. I had won a $50,000 scholarship from the National Association of Black Journalists of San Diego. Okay, shout out to y'all. And that allowed me to get my master's degree in digital journalism. And so now that I'm getting into the digital space, I started looking for another job. Now, when you're a journalist, like that 6-month mark between the time you're supposed to kind of like, you know, get out of your contract and go to the next market, I started looking and randomly I applied to this job at this place called the Review Journal. And within an hour and a half, my former boss called me. Within a week, I was flown out. And within 2 weeks, I knew that I had gotten the job and I was moving to Vegas. Like, what? Vegas? You know, you grow up in California and you go to Vegas, right? 4.5 hour drive. Sometimes you pull up and drive right back home. I mean, we did some crazy stuff back in the day. But Vegas? Could I see myself moving to Vegas? I don't know. But I also wanted to put some roots down. I wanted to be closer to my family. I wanted to start a family. And I was tired of moving every 2 years. I was tired. I didn't want to go any further south. I didn't want to go to the East Coast and have to fight for my life with the weather. I'm not used to that. Yeah, I'm not going back. I'm not going back. I love y'all, but I'm not going back. I can't. So that brings me here to Vegas. And for 4.5 years, I worked in the digital news space and I loved it. I loved, you know, waking up early. Surprisingly, I started waking up at 3 a.m. I doubled my income, which was a huge reason why I decided to move. I bought a house right before the pandemic, which we don't need another pandemic, but we may need like a mini shutdown because things are crazy right now. I met some of the most amazing women like the first 2 weeks I moved here. And that sparked my whole lifestyle here in Vegas. I met my fiance. We now live in my home together, building and thriving. We got this little puppy dog here that you guys see with me hanging out with his mama. I mean, so many blessings have come out of me moving to Las Vegas. And because I got everything that I was praying for, I got a home that I wanted. I built a community that is so supportive and loves me and cares for me. I'm actually building roots, right? And I realized after 4.5 years of working for the RJ and being let go, and you guys know the story, I did my best. I really did my best in this industry. I made my family proud. I made amazing connections. And I built a community for myself that even now, starting this new venture of Summa Our Vegas, the support is outstanding. I really wanted to, do some news and do stuff like that. And that's all good. But I felt like I hated what I was saying and putting out. It just felt like I was doing what everybody else was doing. And so today I just wanted to relax, bring you into my home, into my space, and just tell my story. For any of you who are future journalists or in school right now, I'm not going to fill your head up with dreams and fantasies about this industry. A lot of you will hopefully make it, be the stars that you believe you are, work in large markets like New York and LA and thrive. I really hope that is you. But I'm going to keep it real though. I'm going to keep it real. It's hard. It's not going to be easy. You're not going to make a lot of money. You will have to move every 2 to 3 years. You will have to adapt. Okay. You will have to take a more strong stance on your mental health because it will be tested. Okay. Mental health will be tested. And you have to map out a goal and a plan for yourself and a backup plan as well. Set up a financial plan so that you're moving around this country smart. Set up a goal for the job. What if not, what do I do after? This is stuff that they don't really tell you in school. I feel like they kind of fill your head up with, you can do it. You will achieve, you will go to the top. You will be a superstar. But, it's nice to know the cold, honest truth. A lot of us don't stay in this industry after some years. A lot of us get very tired after waking up at 3 a.m. for 5, 10, 20 years to bring you the news every morning. We love what we do, but it can be exhausting covering death and murder. Now, not to say that there's no good things, but politics and crime and all those things, it can take a big mental toll on you. But with my experience, and if I could do it over again, I would just plan better. I would map out my trajectory of how I'm going to get there. I would build my connections more. But also, I'm so proud of myself for just learning these irreplaceable skills, because now I can do what I love and do it myself and thrive in it. And I hope you guys see that I can do it too. So thank you guys. I really want to bring more personal stories because I feel like I want you guys to really get to know who I am as a person and as a journalist, how I got here, what's interesting to me as a journalist, both locally and nationally, and also just a summer hour in Vegas. What's my life like here? What be going on over here? You know what I'm saying? Like, are we really thriving? Are there things here? I'm not just talking, I'm living it. And I want you guys to follow my journey. And this is the best way to do it. So thank you guys for hanging out with me this episode. Please subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts, and on Podbean. You guys can donate or sponsor my podcast. Please help a sister out. Email me at summerourmedia. That's SUMMEROUR media@gmail.com. And also follow me on Instagram and TikTok and all of those lovely platforms. And again, if you want to sponsor or donate, go to my Cash App, Summa Our Vegas podcast on Cash App. Till the next episode. Love you guys.